Everyone, in this video we would focus on research methodology. Now, in an academic project work, usually the chapter 3, that is, I'm talking about a thesis, usually the chapter 3 is typically the research methodology. Okay, great. Now when we say research methodology, we are looking at the overall approach, the various processes and the various techniques that a researcher uses to conduct a study. In fact, it goes further. Research methodology goes further to include the justification behind the various processes or the various techniques that are employed in conducting a study. So research methodology do not just list a particular tool that this tool would be used in conducting a study, or it doesn't just focus on just stating that this process would be adapted in conducting a study. It goes further to give the reasons, the justification behind the use of a particular strategy or a particular technique in the conduct of a project work or in the conduct of a study. In fact, in simple terms, research methodology explains how the research will be carried out. In simple terms, how are you going to carry out a research? Okay, from you selecting your study design, from how you are going to select your participants, how you are going to collect the data, how you are going to analyze data, okay, how you are going to ensure validity and reliability, and the various ethical standards that will be considered in the course of the study. So research methodology is basically the overall approach, the various processes and the various techniques that a researcher uses to conduct a study. That is what we call research methodology. Is that okay? Good. Now typically in an academic thesis or a project work, like I said, the chapter 3 is usually titled the research methodology. Now, what are the components of a research methodology or the chapter 3 of a typical project work? That's the research methodology. So if someone is doing a research methodology, okay, or the chapter 3 of a typical thesis or academic work, what are the various components? What do we expect that the person will cover? Okay, so here, before we zoom into the details, I'm going to give you a list of the various areas that you should cover when you are writing your research methodology. Now, in writing research methodology, you should cover what we call the study design or research design. The research design or the study design. Now, you should also cover the study area or study site. The study area or the study site. Now, you should also cover the study sample. Okay, the study sample. Sometimes they call it target population. Okay, or you can have study population. Now, under the study sample or target population or study population, we can have what we call inclusion criteria and then exclusion criteria. Is that okay? Then from there, we have the sample size. In some literatures, they call it sample size determination. So sample size. From sample size, we have the sampling procedure or the sampling technique. So the sampling procedure or the sampling technique. Then we have data collection tool. Data collection tool. Or you can call it data collection instrument. Now, from the data collection instrument, we have what we call data collection procedure or data collection technique. Data collection procedure or data collection technique. Now, from the data collection procedure or data collection technique, we have what we call validity and reliability of the data collection instrument. Validity and reliability of the data collection instrument. Then we can have what we call pre-testing or pilot testing. Then we have what we call data analysis approach or data analysis technique, or simply put, you can just call it data analysis. Now, from the data analysis, we move on to what we call the ethical considerations. Okay, ethical considerations. Okay, so if you are asked what are the various components, or someone is doing a typical project work, academic work, a thesis in that matter, or a project work. In the chapter 3, which we call the methodology, what areas is the person expected to focus on, or what areas should the person detail in the write-up? 1, study design or research design. Okay. Second, the person should detail the study area or the study site. Okay. Again, the person should detail the study sample or the target population, or what we call the study population. Under that, we should have inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria. Okay. Then we come down to the sample size determination or the sample size. Okay, that is where you are going to detail how you ended up with a particular sample size. Okay, then we move on to what we call the sampling procedure or the sampling technique. From sampling procedure or sampling technique, we move on to the data collection tool or data collection instrument. From data collection instrument, data collection procedure. From data collection procedure or data collection technique, we move on to validity and reliability. From validity and reliability, we move on to pre-testing. From pre-testing, we move on to data analysis approach or data analysis. From data analysis, then we move on to ethical considerations. Okay, so in a typical research methodology, these are the areas or the components. You can call it components, okay, or the areas that you are expected to cover. So you see, in simple terms, we can say that the research methodology answers questions like, what type of study are you conducting or are you doing? The research methodology is going to give us answers to that question. It's going to give your readers answers. What type of study did you conduct? Okay, where would the study be done? Is that okay? The research methodology is going to give us answers to all these things. So where would the study be conducted? Okay, who will be involved in the study? Okay, how will you collect the data? How will you analyze the data? What tools or what instruments would be used? Okay, how would you ensure ethical issues are addressed? You get it? How will you ensure that ethical issues are addressed? You get it? So these are various areas that you have to consider. Is that okay? So you have to consider when you are doing a research methodology. Okay, so if you are asked the key components of a research methodology, those are the areas you talk about: the study design, the study setting or the study area, study site, the sampling technique. Okay, before that, you have to even talk about the study sample or the target population or the study population, all these things. Okay, these are the components. Now, if we are looking at why research methodology is important, basically research methodology ensures the study is organized and systematic. It is your research methodology that details the systems and the processes your study will go through. So if we read your research methodology, we would get an information on the various processes or the various steps that you observe in conducting the study. Okay, so then again, you can say research methodology enables reliability and validity of your results. Okay, it allows other researchers to understand and also be able to replicate the study that you've conducted. Is that okay? These are all, importance of research methodology. Now, let's start with the first component of research methodology. So like I said earlier, one of the components of research methodology is the research design. The research design, or what we call the study design. Now, what is a study design? A research design is the conceptual backbone within which a research is conducted. It comprises of the blueprint or roadmap for collection, measurement, and analysis of data. So when we say research design, listen, is the conceptual backbone. In fact, I like this definition of research design a lot. Is the backbone. So you see, in physical terms, when we say something is like a backbone, it's like a support system. But in terms of research, when we say backbone, it's like a guide. Okay, it's like a compass. is that it's like the whole compass of the work you are doing. Okay, it serves as a guide. It's the concept of how you are going to conduct the research is in the design you are using. The concept, the whole concept or idea of how you are going to carry on the project is in the research design. Is that okay? So it goes further to say it comprises the blueprint. Okay, this is where it gets interesting. The blueprint, more like the compass, the atlas. It's like the idea, the whole architecture of the work, okay, lies in the research design. Okay, so it comprises the blueprint or roadmap for collection, measurement, and analysis of data. So you see, if we get to know your research design, we are able to tell what kind of data analysis you'll be doing. Okay, so once you tell us that, oh, the design you are using, you are going to use descriptive cross-sectional design using quantitative approach, straight away we can tell or share ideas on which type of analysis that you are likely to do. You get it? Because you see, the research design is more like the roadmap. So when we know your design, in fact, we can even tell the analysis that you are more likely to do and the kind of things that you'll be measuring. Your design can give us an idea the kind of variables that you'll be measuring. Are you going to be dealing with numerical variables, or are you going to be dealing with non-numerical variables? Your design can give us an idea. Is that okay? Now, another point says that the research design is an organized plan for gathering and analyzing data to answer a research question or to test a hypothesis. It entails careful planning of the research procedures, the data collection, data analysis, and interpretation of the results. Now, the research design helps researchers to identify the primary goals of the research and to select the best approach to meet these goals. The research design helps researchers to identify the primary goals of the research. Okay, the primary goals of the research and to select the best approach to meet these goals. Okay, so you see, research design is an organized plan. In fact, it has the plan, the various plan that you are going to use to analyze data to answer your research questions. All lies in your research design. Okay, so you can say that there are some definitions. They will say the research design is the various strategies that you are going to use to find answers to your research questions. Okay, so you see, in the chapter 1 of your research project, in the chapter 1, typically you state your specific objectives, then you convert them into research questions. Based on your specific objective, you have your research questions. So the whole project activities is geared towards getting answers to the research questions. Is that okay? Now, how do you get answers to the questions? The various strategies that you are going to use to get answers to the research questions all lies in the research design. Is that okay? Okay, so the research design is the organized plan for gathering and analyzing data to answer the research questions or to test a hypothesis. It entails careful planning of the research procedures, the data collection, data analysis, and interpretation of the results. The research design helps researchers to identify the primary goals of the research and to select the best approach to meet these goals. Now, let's look at another interesting one. The research design refers to the overall strategy utilized to answer the research questions. The overall strategy utilized to answer the research questions. So a research design typically outlines the theories and models underlining a project, the research questions of a project, a strategy for gathering data and information, and a strategy for producing answers from the data. Okay, so a research design basically is the overall strategy utilized to answer your research question. The various strategies that you are going to use to get answers to the questions that you asked at the beginning of your research. That is the research design. Okay, you can also say research design is the arrangement of conditions for collection and analysis of data in a manner that aims to combine relevance to the research purpose with economy in procedure. Is that okay? So basically, that is it about the research design. Why is the research design important? How is it important? Okay, research design is important because, one, like we mentioned earlier, it provides a clear blueprint. It outlines the overall plan for data collection, analysis, and interpretation. Now, when we look at your research design, we are able to tell which data collection approach you are going to use. We are able to tell which data collection tool that you are even likely to use. In fact, we are able to tell the kind of analysis that you would be using for your study. Your research design will give us an idea. Okay, great. Now, the research design also enhances validity and reliability. It enhances validity and reliability. Why or how? Research design enhances validity and reliability by it reduces bias and errors through proper structure and planning. Because you see, research design ensures that the whole process is structured and going through a certain, systematic process. Is that okay? It also strengthens the accuracy and credibility of the research results, because it's the design that outlines the scientific process that the research will go through. The design. Okay. Now again, research design also ensures efficient use of resources. It helps researchers to manage time, data, and materials effectively. It minimizes unnecessary duplication and effort. Research design also ensures it guides data collection and analysis. How? It specifies the methods and tools best suited for answering research questions. It aligns research objectives with appropriate techniques. The fifth and the last point, it facilitates replication and evaluation. Yes, of course. And that is so because you see, if we understand your research design, okay, we can just go through the same design and then be able to replicate your study probably in a different population. So when we study your design and we know that, you use descriptive cross-sectional design, you use quantitative approach, we can replicate the same design in a different setting. Okay, good, and conduct the same study in a different environment. That's the research design. It facilitates replication and evaluation. Yes, of course, your research design, because it details how you intend to conduct the study, we can use your design to evaluate your work. Okay, for example, when we look at your design, maybe in your design, you are using exploratory design, but along the line, we see you are trying to adapt some quantitative approaches. We can use that to evaluate, because in your design is saying qualitative and you end up doing something quantitative. Your design can give us the basis to evaluate your work. Is that okay? Good. And again, when we look at your design and the kind of phenomena you are studying, we can tell whether the outcome, can be strong or the outcome may be something that is not reliable. Is that okay? So your design can facilitate replication and evaluation of your work. It allows other researchers to replicate or assess the study design and findings. Again, it promotes transparency and consistency in scientific inquiry. Okay, so you see how research design is very important. It's very important. It gives us a clear idea, clear blueprint. Okay, it outlines the overall plan for data collection, analysis, and interpretation. It ensures study remains focused and systematic. It enhances validity and reliability. It reduces bias and errors through proper structure and planning. It strengthens the accuracy and credibility of the research results. Again, it ensures efficient use of resources. It helps researchers manage time, data, and materials effectively. It minimizes unnecessary duplication and effort. Research design also guides data collection and analysis. How? It specifies the methods and tools best suited for answering the research questions. It also aligns research objectives with appropriate techniques. Okay, then the fifth and last point, it facilitates replication and evaluation. It allows researchers to replicate or assess the study design and findings. It promotes transparency and consistency in scientific inquiry. Okay, so now in moving forward, we are going to look at the various types of research designs that we have. Okay, the various types of research designs. Okay, so for now we will end over here. We've looked at research methodology, what it means, okay, the reasons why we have research methodology, the various components of the research methodology, or the various areas a typical research methodology focus on. And remember that in most academic work or thesis or project work, the chapter 3 of the research usually details the research methodology. All right, catch you in the next video. Bye bye.